from Renaissance-style chateaux, grand country estates, architectural glass masterpieces.
These are the remarkable homes
My goodness.
and magnificent landmarks
One day, my son, all this will be yours.
at the very heart of Britain's spectacular history.
Oh, this is stepping back in time.
Join me and a host of celebrities
I can't believe people lived here.
with a passion for the past
It really is a little hidden treasure, isn't it?
as we travel the length and breadth of the nation
This is really exciting.
with unparalleled behind-the-scenes access.
Would you like to see some of his speeches that I brought from the archive in
No,
Cambridge?
not yes. From the highest heights, there's a heck of a view from up here, to the deepest depths. We've got stalactites here.
We'll uncover the secrets
Here he is.
Oh,
still hidden within these breathtaking buildings.
it's a good job I'm slim. These are the places that nobody else gets to see.
And explore the riches
It's so big, it's so intricate, it's so beautiful.
and treasures of one of our most loved institutions. Welcome to the secrets of the National Trust.
Today I'm racing up the Menai Strait in North Wales, and just up ahead of me on the north bank, a property unlike any other.
Set among this breathtaking scenery is the Neo-Gothic Plas Newydd, the country seat of the Marquis of Anglesey.
Through 200 years, the title has been passed through 8 members of the Paget family, and they've all made their mark on Plas Newydd. There's been military heroics, prosthetic legs, theatrical excess, bankruptcy, and artistic brilliance. This is a house of action and drama, and I'm making an entrance that even James Bond would be proud of. Woohoo! You've got its own boathouse.
Uncovering battlefield heroism and handling the sacrifice that came with it.
This is the Anglesey leg.
Wow.
Gaining exclusive access to the harsh consequences of theatrical excess.
When you've got to sell your pets and your knickers, life's come to a pretty pass, hasn't it, really?
Pretty much, yes.
And by discovering a heartbreaking tale of artistic brilliance and unrequited passion.
He's in love with the daughter of the house.
Yes, he is.
I'll reveal that the story of Plas Newydd is a fascinating and action-packed drama. Also tonight, Jenny Bond scales the dizzying heights.
Once you're here, the view is sensational.
And at Sissinghurst Castle, Shapikor Sandy hears a tale of forbidden passion.
And this was a real love, a very deep love that they couldn't express publicly.
But first, here at Plas Newydd, I'm meeting the Trust's Lynn Crane,
How about that for a way to arrive?
who's going to introduce me to the buccaneering first Marquis of Anglesey, Henry William Paget. A distinguished military commander who in 1815 was involved in a legendary battle. It was to put him and this house on the map.
So, this is the first Marquis. He's the dashing cavalry officer.
He is. Doesn't he look magnificent in his King's Hussars uniform?
He saw a lot of action then, presumably, did he?
He did. 45 years he was commander of the King's Hussars. But if we move on to this portrait, we can see him a little bit later.
A bit more battle-scarred now.
Well, yes. This portrait was painted after the Battle of Waterloo.
So he's part of the Battle of Waterloo?
Yes.
Tell me what he did.
He was second in command to the Duke of Wellington, and on the battlefield he was the commanding officer for 14,500 troops.
That's a huge amount. What was the significance of his role?
Incredibly important. He was outnumbered greatly and yet defeated the enemy. He actually had 8 horses shot from underneath him.
Heavens above. You couldn't but admire a man like that, could you?
He had great respect from the officers and the soldiers that he commanded.
And he came back loaded with honours.
He was made first Marquis of Anglesey by King George IV before he returned.
Wonderful.
Henry William Paget's bravery played a crucial part in Wellington's victory at Waterloo. But it was directly after this famous battle that the real drama began. And I'm getting unrivaled hands-on access to find out how.
This is, representing the battle. Amazing. You can almost hear it.
I know, it's magnificent.
What a scene. Terrifying. Oh, he didn't escape unscathed, did he?
Unfortunately not, no.
Do you want to open that cabinet?
This is the Anglesey leg.
It sounds rather like something you get on a menu. Will Sir be taking the Anglesey leg?
It's a rare privilege for me to handle this unique piece of British military history.
Literally, one of the last shots of the battle came over the neck of the Duke of Wellington's horse and hit Henry Paget in the knee.
And he lost his leg completely?
Well, it was completely... The knee was destroyed, and the Duke of Wellington held him on his horse, and then he was taken into the farmhouse, and they cut the leg off there with a saw.
Wow. Now, am I right, then? Is this the moment at which somebody said to the Duke of Wellington, "By God, sir, I've lost my leg"? And the Duke of Wellington said, "By God, sir, you have."
Yes, that's absolutely right.
And this is what they fitted him with?
They did. So the designer of this leg was a gentleman called James Potts from London. And artificial legs before this were mainly rigid. And this was the first that was articulated at the knee and the ankle.
And the ankle and the toe?
Yeah, he had a walking leg, a dancing leg, a riding leg.
Oh, I like a dancing leg.
It's really British stoicism, because apparently his pulse didn't quicken at all.
While they were taking the leg off?
Because no anaesthesia, 1815.
Bite on this.
Yeah. And the only thing he said was, well, the sword could be sharper.
What a story. What a heroic introduction to Plas Newydd.
Henry William Paget risked life and limb for the Duke of Wellington, and such was his devotion that in 1840 he commissioned this full-length portrait of his former commanding officer. But the first Marquis wasn't alone in wishing to commemorate one of the country's most celebrated men. Jenny Bond has travelled to the West Country, where he's been remembered on an even grander scale.
Towering over the Blackdown Hills, in this area of outstanding natural beauty, stands a structure that's the ultimate symbol of battle. The 175-foot-tall Wellington Monument was built in the 19th century to honour the achievements of arguably Britain's greatest ever military commander, Arthur Wellesley, the first Duke of Wellington. A permanent memorial was built close to the town from which he'd taken his name, Wellington, in Somerset.
Hello, Helen. Hi.
Jenny, hi, lovely to see you.
You too.
I've come today to meet the Trust's Helen Sharp. I've been granted an extremely special guided tour of this historic obelisk, the tallest of its kind in Britain.
So, Helen, here we are, this wonderful monument to the Duke of Wellington. But why here?
One of the reasons it was put in this position was so that everybody travelling along the main road into West Country at that time could see it. And we had this wonderful quote where one of the founders of the monument said, "Let no eye escape it." There was a design competition, and this was the one that won it, by Thomas Lee. And the original proposal was to have a statue of the Duke of Wellington on top.
A massive statue.
Yeah.
That looks precarious to me, to say the least. Why didn't that happen?
Well, they ran out of money. And it wasn't actually until the Duke died at the start of the 1850s they got some more money. And it wasn't actually until the 1890s when it's the full height that we see it today.
But maintaining such a unique structure isn't easy.
It gets a fair bit of weather here, doesn't it?
Oh, it's really exposed. It's a great location because everybody can see it, but actually in terms of keeping a structure watertight, it's quite challenging.
Now it needs a bit more work, does it?
Now it needs quite a lot of work.
This wonderful West Country landmark attracts around 40,000 visitors a year. But sadly, 10 years ago, stone debris dropping from the top of the tower meant that it had to be fenced off.
This is as far as people can get.
Seems such a shame.
It is, but today we're going to make an exception. So, hot hats on.
Oh, lovely.
Let's go and
Thank
have
you.
a look.
Wow, it's quite a privilege. After you.
And we've got some conservation work happening today, if you'd like to go and find out a bit more.
Thank you very much. Wow.
I'm being allowed inside, normally off limits to the general public, to check out the important conservation work that Ken Evans is heading up here.
Hi.
Hello, Jenny.
It's like another world, it really is. I feel as if I'm on a film set.
This is a fantastic building. It's a great feat in engineering.
So what are you doing right now, then?
At the moment, we're at the base of the staircase, and this sections are falling off. So where they've fallen off, we look and we find the iron dowels, which would have originally pinned the stone staircase. There is a lot of corrosion. The iron has expanded, and it's blown the stonework off.
Oh, I see.
What we need to do today is to take this pin out. I'm hoping you will offer to knock the pin.
What an honour.
Would you mind wearing some goggles so we don't get any splinters of stone flying in our eyes? Take a chisel, if you could hit it around that edge. Yeah. Yeah.
It's terrifying.
Now, can I just give it a little clout at the back?
Oh.
Oh, we've got it. It's
Well
landed on my knee.
done. That's all right. That's brilliant.
So
that's out. I've ruined your tower.
this little pin has really expanded way beyond its normal size. Somehow moisture's getting in here.
And that might be happening in various parts.
That's
I mean,
right.
all the way up.
Yes.
Gosh. All right.
The pins keep expanding and cracking the stonework, so Ken's restoration work is crucial.
Thank you very much for letting me have a go.
Well, as you've done so well in helping me down here, please
Can I?
go to the top and enjoy the view. It is excellent.
Whoa, it really is incredibly narrow.
The climb to the top involves a tiring 233 steps.
But once you're here, the view is sensational. You realise that it's not just a great tribute to the Duke of Wellington, but it's a really important landmark for anyone travelling through the southwest.
Plas Newydd may have been home to a battle-hardened hero who fought alongside Wellington, but not all its residents were of the same fashion. Standing proudly on the banks of the Menai Strait in North Wales, across from the Snowdonia Mountains is the elegant Plas Newydd. Once home to heroic Henry William Paget, who lost a leg helping win victory at the famous Battle of Waterloo. He was made Marquis of Anglesey for his efforts.
The title passed down through the generations, but it wasn't until 1898 and the 5th Marquis that Plas Newydd found itself in the headlines again.
But this time it wasn't military prowess or daredevilry on the battlefield that earned column inches for Henry Cyril Paget. It was instead his all-encompassing passion for the dramatic arts.
This saw him become known as the Dancing Marquis.
Author Ruth Richards has been exploring the life of the man who injected a shot of glam into staid Edwardian society.
So this is him. Am I the only one who's spotting a slight similarity here to Freddie Mercury? I mean,
Yes.
with the moustache.
It's often been commented. And he does have a kind of almost psychedelic look as well.
What do you make of him?
I'm absolutely besotted with him. He is such an enigma. Were it not for these photographs, you'd almost find it difficult to believe that such a character
Could have existed.
Could have existed. If there was an Edwardian equivalent of a rock and roll lifestyle, certainly Henry Cyril Paget lived it.
If he's a dancing Marquis, it rather suggests you that maybe he wasn't the marrying type. Did he marry?
Yes, he did. He married his cousin Lillian. On their honeymoon in Paris, he bought her an entire window display of jewels.
What's not to like?
What's not to like?
Who wouldn't stick with a guy like that?
But all he wanted to do, confounding expectations again, was drape her in as many jewels as he could get his hands on and just gaze at her naked in jewels.
I'm beginning to get a picture of this man. So,
yeah.
How long did this marriage last?
They managed 3 years.
Right.
But the marriage was annulled, not surprisingly, on the grounds of non-consummation.
Henry Cyril's annual income from the family's various estates would be worth nearly £15 million in today's money.
What did he spend it on?
His own personal theatre.
Right.
He turned the chapel into the Gaiety Theatre.
And this is it? That's a glorious little theatre.
Absolutely. And he employed a troupe of professional actors.
But he's a part of them.
This
is him in the middle in the costume.
Yeah, and he'd always bag the best parts and the best costumes. But what's interesting is that it was less exclusive than you might think, because all the productions were free of charge and local people were invited to see them.
So I suspect they rather loved the local lord of the manor then, didn't they, in that he was inclusive rather than keeping them out?
Well, I imagine it was also rather nice having such high wattage glamour right on your doorstep.
Were there other extravagances apart from the theatricals?
His cars wafted perfume from their exhaust pipes.
No.
Absolutely.
That's taking it to the nth degree, isn't it?
Well, yes, everything in the world of Henry Cyril Paget was embellished. His poodles were dyed...
What, pink?
Presumably.
All this extravagance, was it sustainable?
Of course not. He racked up debts to the equivalent value of 50 million.
That's a big debt.
And he was declared bankrupt in 1904, and he left in exile for the continent.
So in 6 years, he'd racked up debts of 50 million equivalent.
And he died in Monte Carlo.
Oh.
Of tuberculosis, with Lillian, his ex-wife, by his side.
At what age?
29.
So from coronation and robes and becoming a marquis and having this woman that you're draped with jewels and diamonds, extravagant theatricals, all this done, and £50 million equivalent debt owed by the age of 29.
After his disgrace came the Great Anglesey Sale, an attempt to pay off Henry Cyril Paget's eye-watering debts. It took 40 days, and there were at least 17,000 lots. I've been given a rare glimpse at the original auction catalogues, which paint a striking picture of the 5th Marquis and his wild lifestyle.
Hang on, look at this. A handsome and costly brown sable overcoat with 20 tails and 10 head fronts, satin lining.
Yes. I think that was one of the items that did not do as well as expected.
Horses, carriages, harness, motor cars, slippers, 3 pairs, 2 pairs, 3 pairs, 17, 4 pairs of fancy leather with monogram. How many slippers does a man need?
But really, it's quite moving and it's quite sad to see so many very, very personal effects going under the hammer. His underwear, his perfume, even his pets.
Sporting dogs, Burton Ruth, Brownie, Sweep, fancy having to sell your dogs.
Absolutely, and it
when you've got to sell your pets and your knickers, life's come to a pretty pass, hasn't it, really?
Pretty much, yes.
It's just fascinating.
It's perfect, isn't
There's
it?
a life in these auction catalogues, isn't there, really?
Yes.
It's sad to think that there's barely any trace left of the fabulous 5th Marquis, his lavish wardrobe, the chic Parisian dressing gowns, the furs, all sold to pay his creditors. The jewels alone fetching the equivalent today of around £7 million.
Most of his creditors got their money back.
What did his family make of him?
The title and what was left of the estate went down to his cousin Charles Paget, and he immediately destroyed all that was left of his personal effects and unfortunately all of his papers. And needless to say, the Gaiety Theatre was no more, so there was an attempt to whitewash him out of history.
But from our point of view, and thanks to researchers like you, his colour has come back to flush the stone of Plas Newydd and remind us that he did exist. He brought colour, life, gaiety.
And it's wonderful to see him celebrated.
The 5th Marquis's star burned brightly, but all too briefly here at Plas Newydd. But another flamboyant Victorian is positively celebrated at National Trust property Hawker's Hut. Susanna Lipscomb is on the north coast of Cornwall to uncover the story of its charismatic and nonconformist 19th century creator.
The Reverend Robert Stephen Hawker was the vicar here from 1834 to 1875. He was renowned as a bit of an eccentric. He wore outlandish outfits, he liked to smoke a bit of opium, and he was a well-known poet. His work was praised by Charles Dickens and Sir Walter Scott. But on this stretch of the North Cornish coast, he is perhaps best known for his hut.
Nestled on the cliff tops, a short walk from the village of Morwenstow, is Hawker's Hut. The Trust's head ranger, Jeff Charrington, takes up the story.
Reverend Hawker turns up to Morwenstow as the vicar in 1834. He's only 31, so he's a young lad, but there hasn't been a vicar for 100 years in the parish. So he's coming into a parish that's, to him, quite unruly, full of brigands and smugglers, and sets about creating quite a Christian parish.
So why did he build this? So perhaps he came and sat here and looked out at the sea and used it as a lookout point, perhaps?
He was aware that there were many shipwrecks along this coast, and he was more concerned about giving the shipwrecked sailors a Christian burial, so he had them brought up, buried. But he also knows there's a lot of timber there. All the timber's from shipwrecks, so as you look around the hut, you can see actually there are ship's timbers.
It's certainly a good view, and I suppose it could be quite inspiring.
Good. Well, he wrote the Song of Western Men, which is now the Cornish national anthem.
Tell me, on the scale of National Trust properties from sort of, castles all the way down, it's got to be one of the smallest ones, right?
Yeah, compact and bijou.
Hawker's Hut wasn't the only thing the Reverend built on his arrival at Morwenstow. He also commissioned the vicarage, where he lived for nearly 40 years. It's now home to Jill Welby, who's amassed a vast array of rare Hawker artefacts.
Jill, this is the most amazing collection. Tell me about what we've got.
We've got lots of Hawker's letters, his thought books, lots of photographs. This is Hawker over here. He was most unusual. He always wore a fisherman's jersey. He wouldn't wear any black at all, which was most unusual for clergy. The only black item he wore was socks that the school children used to knit for him. And he built the school and paid the school teacher, so he was very patriarchal.
He sounds like such a character.
He was.
He was quite eccentric, wasn't he?
He was very, very eccentric. Well, the chimneys of the house are very eccentric too, because the one in the kitchen is the exact shape and dimensions of his mother's tomb, which is a little odd.
That is quite macabre. And what else have we got here? So this is his annotations on his own poem?
Yes, corrections.
He was pretty well known as a poet, wasn't he?
He was.
So this one is written to Alfred Tennyson.
Yes.
So he had friends in high places.
He did.
Oh, and this one?
The Fatal Ship.
Signed by him.
Yes.
The fatal ship, down the deep sea, 4 fathoms down, an iron vault has clutched 500 men. That's quite evocative, isn't it? Given that we can see the sea from here.
And hear the wind.
That would have taken down the ships.
Yes, and as he got older, he would get very distressed by the thought of more ships being wrecked along this coast. It just used to make him cry when the wind got up. He just couldn't bear it, because they would give them all a Christian burial.
So a real labour of love.
It was.
1 year alone, Reverend Hawker had to deal with 15 shipwrecked bodies. He brought them here to his churchyard at Morwenstow to lay them to rest.
The Reverend Hawker is one of history's big personalities, but Plas Newydd is a home that's also proving to be full of larger-than-life characters. And the 6th Marquis was no exception. judging by the remarkable legacy he left from his time as head of this grand house. Plas Newydd in North Wales is the ancestral seat of the Pagets. Henry William Paget was made the first Marquis of Anglesey in recognition of his military bravery. But Henry Cyril, the fifth Marquis, bankrupted the family with his theatrical excess. And today, I'm delighted to be meeting a present-day Paget, Lord Rupert, who grew up here and has promised to share some family secrets.
Rupert, explain to me your relationship to the Marquis of Anglesey.
Well, I am one of 5 children of the 7th Marquis of Anglesey, so I was brought up here, and for most of that time, this house, believe it or not, we lived in all of it.
Did you?
All 70 rooms of it. But come the 70s, Dad was very keen on a National Trust and very keen to preserve the house, so it was passed over to the National Trust. At the time, when you're living as a child in this vast house, you don't think it's particularly strange.
What sort of things happened?
Standing where we are now, in the summertime, rolling down the great steep lawn there, seeing who get here fastest, we had an aunt and husband living across the other side of the Menai Strait, and Dad had an enormous megaphone, so they'd have these ridiculous conversations going on.
What, shouting across the strait?
Yes.
Are there secrets about the house?
There are indeed. I mean, one particular one, the food that used to come to this house, you didn't have local supermarkets, so it came in by sea. But it was never visible because underneath this land here, there is a tunnel that goes from the house down to a dock.
So a secret tunnel?
Yes, indeed.
Can we get out the dock and see it?
I can show you the other end of it, where the food came out, if you like.
Oh, can't wait.
OK.
This hidden labyrinth underneath the castle and its grounds is most definitely not on the usual visitors' route.
Right, down into the bowels.
It's a real privilege to be given a guided tour by someone with such intimate knowledge of the house.
Right, come through this way. Be careful, it's a bit slippery.
Gosh, so this is a sort of cellar?
Yes, indeed. Fridges weren't exactly around in those days.
No.
And I suppose after you brought the stuff up the tunnel, keep it cool here, and then take it up to the kitchens as required.
This would have been a hive of activity, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, must have been, yes.
And that's...
Well, that's where we're going in a minute.
The tunnel?
It's a bit dark.
Come on, then.
Carry on.
Oh. Dripping chambers.
Yes, indeed.
We've got stalactites here.
It's quite scary if you were scared of such things.
And this is the tunnel?
Yeah, indeed. Come down, have a look.
Hidden beneath the cellars, this vast network of tunnels dates from the 18th century.
Goodness me, what a trek. I mean, to come down here all the time for food.
Yeah, indeed.
It's not like going to the fridge for a packet of frozen peas, is it?
Indeed.
I don't suppose the master of the house ever did it, though, did he?
I very much doubt it. I think he probably left it to the servants, of which I imagine there must have been a lot, because there's a lot of work to do carrying all this food up here.
But by the time you were born, presumably not so
long gone. We had shops by then.
Yeah, much easier. Go on, then. Let's
Carry on.
get down to the end. Funny to think that this would just have been a part of their everyday life several times a day.
Absolutely, and as you say, just completely normal, whereas to us it seems very abnormal.
This is the end, then?
Yes, indeed, with this amazing ladder coming down from
So
the
they're like horseshoes coming out the wall.
They really do look like that.
So, having come along this passage, they've got to get up these iron horseshoes.
Yeah, indeed, all the way up, coming from the dock, where I imagine they pass the food down.
This is no job for an ordinary housemaid.
No.
Do you know, the thing I've come to realise about the Pagets is that even the way they got their groceries was dramatic.
I'm afraid you're right.
Come on.
This incredible subterranean world is just another fascinating layer in this riveting adventure through Plas Newydd's history. And the story of the 6th Marquis, who was Lord Rupert Paget's grandfather, is another example of how this grand house continues to astonish. I'm back with the Trust's Lynn Crane.
Oh my goodness.
To find out about his relationship with an intriguing and brilliant British artist who left a stunning and lasting impression upon this elegant house.
I am such a fan, I know exactly who this is. This is Rex Whistler, and I've loved his work like forever. It's so beautiful, and it's enormous.
I know.
The British artist Rex Whistler was born in 1905 and was known for his prodigious talent from an early age. This mural was to be his masterpiece. The commission was agreed in 1936, with Whistler deciding not to paint directly onto the wall, but instead onto canvas to avoid any distracting joins. And in late June 1937, the painted canvas was transported to Plas Newydd and carefully fixed in place to spectacular effect.
Do you know, some famous art dealer said to me once, "Have you ever seen a painting that made you cry?" And I said, "No." And I think I probably have now. It's so beautiful.
The title of the artwork is The Kingdom by the Sea.
And indeed it is.
And it's all the family's favourite places and Rex Whistler's favourite places as well.
So Whistler was a friend of the family?
He was a friend of Lady Caroline Paget, and they came together on the train from London Euston, Easter 1936, to meet Charles, her father, the 6th Marquis of Anglesey, to discuss what they could put on this wall.
You know those paintings where people say, the more you look at it, the more you see? Well, you could be in here for years. Ornate cupolas and statues and churches. Any significance in the figures? There's a man with a broom.
There is, actually. That's Rex Whistler himself. And that was one of his signatures. He did that quite a lot, actually.
And then, following this amazing town landscape down, the dominant feature in this part of the painting are these two enormous trees which almost sort of intertwine.
So you've got the two trees entwined, which is a symbol of love, and the one on the left is flourishing and alive, and the one on the right is withering and dying.
Oh, so who's withering and dying?
I know. We've got Lady Caroline Paget on the left, really happy, and we've got Rex Whistler on the right that's not so happy.
He's in love with the daughter of the house.
Yes, he's desperately unhappy because he adores her, and the relationship isn't going maybe the way that he would like it to go.
Oh, my goodness.
But we have some secret letters that we can show you, and it'll make clearer the relationship between Rex Whistler and Lady Caroline Paget.
Oh, but I don't want to tear myself away from this painting, but I've got to follow the story. I've got to find out what happened, though I fear the worst. Farewell, beautiful painting. Oh. Plas Newydd is the country seat of the Paget family, whose dramatic lives dominated this part of North Wales.
And the family drama continued through Lady Caroline Paget, a notable British socialite whose intriguing relationship with the artist Rex Whistler resulted in this stunning dining room mural. Within this fabulous scene, Whistler declared his love for Lady Caroline by depicting them as intertwined trees.
He's in love with the daughter of the house.
Yeah.
And the Trust's Lynn Crane has promised to show me how the Plas Newydd mural isn't the only way Whistler expressed his great love for the family's eldest daughter.
Oh, it's Lady Caroline. And this is Whistler's portrait of her.
It is, it is.
His dream girl.
His muse, if you like.
Yeah.
But did Caroline return Rex's love? This intimate correspondence, never normally seen by the public, holds the secret truth to their relationship.
Here we have some letters that were handwritten by Rex Whistler to Lady Caroline.
Oh, my goodness, so this is a letter. Darling Caroline, please could I see you sometime and perhaps waltz with you once or twice? Oh, it's so beautiful. We can have lovely waltzes and walks under the stars. There's a little drawing he's done here of him waltzing with her. There's something in this corner here. My sweet Caroline. And then, I love you, darling, still, even though you are so horrid.
Oh, dear.
I'm feeling for him. This is awful. Unrequited love.
She was clearly the one, basically. And we can see by these sketches here how obsessed he was.
There's a little oil painting of her here in the Altogether. Now, is this his imagination or was the relationship?
You see, we really don't know that.
That's very diplomatic. We'll gloss over that.
I think we should.
And then a piece of cardboard. The top of a box of camembert cheese. Sent to me from Normandy by Rex Whistler. Sent to me, so this is presumably Caroline's writing. It arrived after he'd been killed, 1944. My darling Caroline, with love from me and Normandy. And a rose, the rose in the...
Yes, the rose from the painting. He was killed the very first day in battle. He's buried at Banijay in the cemetery there in Normandy.
Absolutely heartbreaking.
Yes, very sad.
Oh dear, cheer myself up now. It's a heartbreaking love story and a heartbreaking end to a life. Poor ex-Whistler.
The reality of Whistler's heartache is depicted in the famous dining room mural he painted himself and his muse as Romeo and Juliet, star-crossed lovers whose passion also ended in tragedy. Shabby Corsandi is in Kent, uncovering another ill-fated love affair, which played out against the backdrop of the ancient estate at Sissinghurst Castle.
The prolific poet, author Vita Sackville-West lived for more than 30 years in this beautiful, vast Elizabethan castle. And the passion with which she lived her life, even from our perspective today, was really quite extraordinary.
On the face of it, Vita's life here was a picture of Edwardian upper-class respectability, raising her 2 sons with her husband Harold Nicholson on the vast castle estate.
Much of her life was very well documented, but it was only after her death that certain, much more intimate aspects of her life really came to light.
To help me delve further into this intriguing story is Sissinghurst curator, Dr. Jerzy Kirkuk-Belinsky.
Hello!
Hello, Shappy.
Jerzy, tell me more about Vita. She wasn't a conventional woman, was she?
In many respects, she certainly wasn't. She was born, though, to one of the most aristocratic families in this country, the Sackville-Wests. She wrote an extensive series of novels, wrote for The Observer, she had a long-standing column, and of course she created this extraordinary garden with her husband, Harold.
In terms of her relationships, how did that pan out? Because I know she had relationships outside of her marriage too.
She did, yes. We know that she had one affair with a man when she was young. Her other relationships were with women.
To explore one of Vita's most significant affairs, I've been given the privilege of visiting her private writing rooms.
Wow, what a beautiful room this is.
When she was alive, she allowed very few people to come into this space. It was very much her sanctuary.
And I'm intrigued by this beautiful painting of this very attractive woman.
It's a portrait by an artist called Sir John Lavery, and it's a portrait of a very special person in Vita's life, Violet Keppel, her lover.
Vita and Violet first met in 1904 when they were 12 and 10 years old. But their relationship intensified years later, around the time they're both married.
This poem, written in French, Vita was fluent in French.
Of course.
And it's a work that we very recently discovered. So it's a rare example of a lost work by Vita.
What a find.
I listen to your chatter and give thanks to the gods for the honest friendship which made you my companion. But in the heavy fragrance of intoxicating night, I search on your lip for a madder caress.
This was a real love, a very deep love that they
Very much so.
They couldn't express publicly or openly.
It would have been socially impossible for both of them.
Vita's affair with Violet came to a head in 1920 when they decided to elope together to France. In a jealous rage, their husbands gave chase.
Harold and Dennis fly over to France to get their wives back to England. And in fact, Harold, I think in this instance, you can see that he is quite jealous of Violet, jealous about the fact that she has Vita's attention and love. And although the relationship with Violet did continue over the next year, by 1921, really, it was played out.
Vita's relationship with Violet marked the start of a long string of affairs, most notably with author Virginia Woolf. But a recently unearthed collection of personal photo albums shows that Vita's heart belonged here at Sissinghurst with her family. And senior house steward Helen Davis is giving me a rare opportunity to have a look.
Hi, Helen. Hi. These look kind of glorious.
They are pretty wonderful. These are 13 photograph albums that we've recently acquired and are a brand new acquisition for Sissinghurst. So
oh, wow.
These just haven't been seen before, which is so exciting. They tell us such a snapshot of Vita and Harold's lives, how they use this as a family home here at Sissinghurst. Violet was a fleeting love affair, but long term it was Harold that was really the constant steady in Vita's life.
Do you know what's really special is looking at these albums and seeing them as a family. These are normal family photos that happen to be in a castle in 450 acres. It's a display of their devotion, isn't it?
Very much so.
What an incredible life Vita and Harold had together. Their friendship was deep enough and strong enough for their marriage to endure for 50 years. The path of true love never ran smooth, and no one knew that more than Vita and Harold.
Vita and Harold's intriguing lives resonate here back at Plas Newydd, which has revealed itself to be a house full of surprises.
And it's the dramatic backdrop for heroic endeavour, high emotion and creative expression.
There's been battlefield bravery and sacrifice, wild extravagance, financial ruin, artistic excellence and unrequited love.
And this house stands as a testament to those who've called it home, and their courage, their vigour and their passion for life.
Next time, I'm at Kingston Lacey in Dorset.
This is elaborate in the extreme.
Uncovering the little-known details behind its extravagance.
We're looking at something that's approximately 2,000 years old.
Goodness me.
Exploring the secret life of its flamboyant owner, William Banks.
He was caught in Green Park in flagranti.
And Joan Bakewell follows a Kingston Lacey painting that could just be a masterpiece.
Lo and behold, we have a face.
Extraordinary.